We'll begin with this news article. Bharat Biotech's nasal COVID vaccine available as booster. This is a big news, especially in the context of rising COVID cases in China. Let's take up discussion. With reference to intranasal vaccine developed by Bharat Biotech, consider the following statements. I would highly recommend you to attempt the question sincerely before the discussion for the question begins. It will provide broad spectrum immunity. The statement is correct and I shall explain you in a while. It can mitigate the transmission of coronavirus. Because it's a nasal vaccine and you know that noses, they are the important entry point for the virus. So if the mucosa layers in the nasal area, they have good number of T cells and B cells, then even the transmission of coronavirus will be mitigated. Statement again is correct. It can be used as a heterologous booster dose. Booster doses are homologous and heterologous. Homologous booster dose, as the name suggests, would be taking vaccine as a booster, but the same vaccine that you have taken previously for primary immunity. But for both Covaxin and Covishield, you can use this as a heterogeneous booster dose. So the statement is correct again. It is a whole inactivated virus-based COVID-19 vaccine. See, vaccines have various types. You can have live attenuated vaccine, you can have inactivated vaccine, you can have subunit vaccine, toxoid vaccine, or biosynthetic vaccines. Previously, the vaccines that we have developed, like Covishield, they are whole inactivated vaccines. These are traditional vaccines. But now we have more advanced mRNA-based vaccine, DNA vaccine, and vector-based vaccine. This intranasal vaccine is not whole inactivated virus-based vaccine. This is incorrect. It is rather a vector-based vaccine. We take chimpanzee adenovirus. We take it because we are very familiar with it, and adenovirus infects human beings every now and then. It is the most common virus causing common cold. So the genetic sequencing is known very, very well. We can alter that to make it ineffective so that it doesn't multiply inside the body. We also know that sequencing of coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, and with the gene editing technique, the gene corresponding to the spike protein can be inserted in the genetic sequence of adenovirus. So this is an advanced technique for development of vaccine. So using this gene, the entry into the body cell happens and the spike protein, just like mRNA vaccine, is created inside the body. So we do not put any antigen in the vaccine, meaning we do not put any parts of the virus, rather the gene of the virus. And that part of the virus corresponding to which the gene has been added, that is created in the body itself. Until recently, we have been using protein subunit and virus-like particle. These are the conventional ways of developing vaccine. Now we have more advanced the genetic vaccines, mRNA-based vaccine and the DNA vaccines, and viral vector vaccines. In viral vector vaccine, you just insert a gene corresponding to the virus in the genetic sequence of a virus. We choose adenovirus because it is very common. It can be extracted from various mammals. And in this case of nasal vaccine for COVID-19, this adenovirus has been extracted from chimpanzee. As you can see, it is a double-stranded DNA-based virus. In 2021, UPSC has asked a question, adenoviruses have single-stranded DNA. This is incorrect. Adenovirus has double-stranded DNA and retroviruses, they have single-stranded DNA. Common cold is sometimes caused by an adenovirus, whereas AIDS is caused by retrovirus. This statement is correct. Common cold is caused by adenovirus, so it is very well known to the body's immune system. It can be extracted from various mammalian body, so we are using it for vaccine development. Look at this another question from 2022. The Serum Institute of India produced COVID-19 vaccine named Covishield using mRNA platform. mRNA is an advanced technique, and so far India has not developed any mRNA-based vaccine. Covaxin, as we have discussed, is an inactivated pathogen-based vaccine. Sputnik 5 vaccine is manufactured using vector-based platform. This is again an advanced technique of development of vaccine. Look at this another question of 2021. With reference to recent developments regarding recombinant vector vaccine, consider the following statements. Genetic engineering, of course, will be used in any kind of manipulation of gene. Bacteria and viruses are used as vectors. The statement is correct again. Just like here we have used adenovirus, we can also use certain bacteria as vectors. So coming back to the original question, it is a whole inactivated virus-based COVID-19 vaccine? No. It is a vector-based COVID-19 vaccine. So the answer here would be option B. This is a news article from Indian Express on genetically modified crops. With reference to transgenic hybrid mustard DMH11, consider the following statements. It is a cross-pollinating plant and has higher yield than its parent mustard Varuna. See, mustard is a self-pollinating plant. That is why if you have to create a hybrid from variety A of mustard and variety B of mustard, then there has to be cross-pollination for hybridization. We are doing hybridization because the hybrid variety in general has higher yield than any of the parents. But for hybrid variety, in the first offspring, you need to have genetic material from two different parents. And for that reason, you need to have cross-pollination. But mustard is self-pollinating plant. So it is difficult to create hybrid of mustard. So various technique has been used for cross-pollination and hybridization to happen. But the final plant that we have developed as a genetically modified version of mustard is still self-pollinating. So the statement here says it is cross-pollinating plant. No, mustards are self-pollinating and even the hybrid variety is self-pollinating. It become herbicide resistant due to the bar gene. The statement is correct. There are three kinds of gene in GM mustard. Barney's, Buster. Barney's and Buster are used for the purpose of cross-pollination. And there's a third gene called as bar gene. Bar gene is important, very important for the development of first generation of seed. During the process of hybridization, one of the variety gets the pollen grains from the other variety, and here hybridization happens. So the seed from this variety will come in the first generation. So the seed from this variety is the first generation of hybrid seed. So we want the flower and the plant of this variety to survive in the field. The flower would mature and give birth to a baby, the seed of the plant. But the other plant, after giving the pollen grain, this must die because this will not create a hybrid variety. Because pollen grain from A has not come to B, pollen grain from B has gone to A. So hybridization is happening here. So a bar gene is added in A so that it becomes herbicide resistant and the whole field is flooded with herbicides, pesticides. So B is not herbicide resistant, it will die out. So no seed from B. A is herbicide resistant, so it will stay. Flower will grow, mature, and the hybrid variety of seed you can collect from the field. That's the whole idea. So in the process of hybridization, herbicide resistant becomes important characteristic. Without that, seed cannot be created on mass scale. So a bar gene is added to make the GM crop herbicide resistant. So the statement here is correct. UPSC has asked in 2018 already about GM mustard. GM mustard has the gene of a soil bacterium that gives the plant the property of pest resistance. No such property is given. Herbicide resistance, that is there, but pest resistance is not there. GM mustard has the gene that allows the cross. Pest resistance is given for cotton plant because there the problem is of pilk bollworm. But here there is no such problem. The idea here is to increase productivity. So this property of pest resistance is not there with GM mustard. GM mustard has the gene that allow the plant cross-pollination and hybridization. Because naturally mustard is self-pollinating, so hybridization cannot happen. So genes like Barney's and Bustard are added for cross-pollination and hybridization. The statement is correct. GM mustard has been developed by Delhi University. Incorrect statement. Consider the following statements. Cervical cancer, common among girls, is caused by double-stranded DNA-based human papillomavirus. The common viruses that we know of are adenovirus. Human papillomavirus is also adenovirus, and we have just discussed adenovirus, a double-strand DNA-based virus. Statement correct. Vaccine exists for cervical cancer. Recently, indigenously developed vaccine has been cleared for the cervical cancer. The statement is again correct. The answer is option C. In 2019, UPSC has asked a question in which the statement was hepatitis B, unlike hepatitis C, does not have a vaccine. Hepatitis B has a vaccine and it was known as the first anti-cancer vaccine because the virus causes cancer to the liver cell and hence it is the first anti-cancer vaccine as well. So we have vaccine for hepatitis B. Now we also have vaccine for cervical cancer. There was an article on page number 12 in yesterday's newspaper. Engineering goods exports to China slid 40% in November. In this context, attempt discussion. Consider the following statements. India's merchandise export is more than service export. The second statement, petroleum products has the highest share in the merchandise export. Say it is true That the merchandise export is more than the service export. You can see the numbers for various months. Merchandise export is substantially more than the service export. But the highest share in the merchandise export is that of engineering goods. Then the petroleum products, it's number two. Then we have gems and jewelry, organic and inorganic chemicals, drugs and pharmaceuticals, cotton yarns, fabrics. We have electronic goods at the 8th position, rice at the 10th position. Some of them you must bear in mind. So India's merchandise export is more than service export, correct. Petroleum export has the highest share, incorrect. Engineering goods has the highest share in the merchandise export. Answer option A. UPSC has several times asked question based on India's export. There was an article, once a forest, now a settlement. Consider the following statements regarding Forest Right Committee. The Forest Right Act of 2006 provides for their establishment. They are constituted by the Gram Sabha, correct? They ensure rights for pastoralist and nomadic tribes. True sounding statement, correct? But the thing is, scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers, recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006 does not contain any provision for constitution of Forest Rights Committee. However, a notification of 2008 concerning the legislation had the provision for constitution of Forest Right Committee by the Gram Sabha. So first statement here is incorrect. Answer is option B. UPSC previously in 2013 has asked this question under the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Right Act 2006, who shall be the authority to initiate the process for determining the nature and extent of individual or community forest rights, or both? Gram Sabha is the institution that can initiate that. Let's take this last question. Consider the following statements. Adjournment in the House does not terminate session of the House. Correct. And the power to adjourn a House is that of President under the Constitution. You know that adjournment happens by the power of Speaker. Statement is incorrect. Adjournment sine die leads to adjournment of Parliament for an indefinite period without assigning any specific day or date for its reconvening. This is a correct statement. It's factual, basic. Prorogation leads to termination of the session of the Parliament and can be done by the Speaker. Statement 1 and 3 are reversed. To summon and prorogate is the power of the President, and they do lead to termination of session. It's not the chairman but the President. The answer is option B. UPSC has asked question like this. I'll just discuss statement 2 with you. The Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions of Parliament in a year, but it is not mandatory to conduct all 3 sessions. Very smartly crafted statement, but the Constitution does not have provision for 3 sessions. These comes from the business conduct rules. The other 2 statements are factual and correct.